Welcome to the Recovery Roundtable podcast, where the journey to sobriety opens up through powerful discussions and shared experiences. Join your host, Mark, who will bring you stories of triumph and resilience from the heart of Pacific Shores recovery. Every episode offers insights and support, guiding you through the challenges of addiction recovery. Thank you for joining our community. If you're ready to start or continue your recovery journey, we're here to inspire and support you. Let's explore recovery together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming down. Why don't you kind of share who you are, where you're from, and then we'll just jump in, see where this thing goes.
Sure. So my name's Shane Kelley. Let's see. I spent 25 years in the fire service as a Corona firefighter. December 31st, 2015, I decided to get completely sober and give up the booze 100%. It took me about 7 years to do that. So that was a rough one for me. I live in the city of Corona, and I own a gym in Orange County called Self-Made Training Facility, Orange County. It is a personal training gym. That gym has been open for about 8 years, and we mentor and help personal trainers develop their own brand and their own business under that roof.
That sounds awesome. So how does one transition from firefighting to a gym owner?
Well, I guess I touched on a little bit in my intro, right? Hi, I'm Shane. I'm an alcoholic. And let's see, that journey really brought everything together. So I get hired in 2001 as a firefighter. I'm pretty young, in my 20s, and the course of that lifestyle, getting married, having kids, white picket fence dream, everything's going great. And
is that something that you always wanted, was to be a firefighter as a kid?
Yeah. Initially, as a youngster, I looked up in the air and I thought, I'm going to fly jets. Then we were in the Cold War era, I'm going to age myself a little bit. So I wanted to bomb Russia. That was probably the goal as a child. And then as I learned a little more about the world and politics, my sister, who is older, was dating a firefighter. And this guy was just very inspiring. He actually came around the house a few times, talked to me about my future. And he actually was my inspiration into pursuing a career in the fire service.
What was inspiring? What was different about him?
You know what? The guy was fit. He kind of seemed like he had it together. He was articulate. It's probably one of the first guys that came around the house where I was impressionable, like 16, asked me what I wanted to do. I said, I want to be a pilot. And he was like, oh, you ever thought about being a fireman? And I didn't even know that was a possibility. At that point, I thought you had to know someone. I thought you had to have some kind of in. I just didn't really think a lot about it. We had an ROP program in high school, regional occupational program. And so as a freshman, I started diving into what that would look like. And I was able to get in that ROP program in high school. And so that opened some doors. It gave me some insight to what the career would look like. And I decided to go for it. I always had a backup plan. So I had a family of teachers. My sister's a teacher. My mom's a teacher. So they told me education, go to school. So I was doing a lot of prerequisites and school stuff while I was going to the fire academy and just kind of getting, but diving in as an EMT, doing all the steps necessary to get to a fire service career.
Okay. So you meet your sister's boyfriend. You're kind of thinking, this seems kind of cool. This guy's got it together. You join the ROP and then you become a firefighter. So what was that experience like over the decades?
Yeah. So I think because, we talk about alcoholism, this alcoholic experience. I had alcoholism in my family, I don't know what comes first, right? But the bottom line is I get in the fire service and it's a very interesting dynamic of not just brotherhood, politics, good old boys club mentality, and you figure out pretty quickly that you got to be a go-getter, step in, shine somehow. And so that was very easy for me to do because the fire service had those elements of the association, which was like community involvement, union involvement. And I got kind of plugged into that world fairly quickly. Within my first year and a half, after getting off probation, I was the political action director. They elected me to go do all of the politics and smooze with all the bigwigs. And dude, it was a very easy atmosphere for me because I like to drink and I like to mingle.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that atmosphere really worked for me. I mean, it's totally weird to be talking about this, like, hey, why do you want to be a fireman? Socially, like what I wanted was when I looked at, we'll back up. The boyfriend aspect, again, all that did was open the door to me to be like, hey, I could actually do that.
Yeah.
I think what really drove me on it was I started realizing like, that just looks like fun. That looks cool to go out, be of service, help people, right?
Kick down doors, save some babies.
Physical aspect. I get to work out. I get to stay in shape. I get to go to the river. I get to go, right? I mean, these guys had everything that, the lifestyle had everything that I thought I would want, So it was, once I got there and I realized I could have that lifestyle, I guess that's where that whole union aspect came into play. Like I fit in and I gave them something that made me of value to them. Right. So they really, they liked me. They really wrapped their arms around me, and they had no idea the alcoholism or the other stuff that was perpetuating. It's not their fault, but at the end of the day, man, that was part of the snowballing for me in my career.
Well, what I'm hearing is it was that community, and it started out wonderful and kind of checked all the boxes. So at what point did it go from drinking socially to I'm kind of drinking differently than other people? Maybe there's an issue or something bigger here.
So I think alcoholism, this is a great question. And I've had time over the years to look at the chain of events that I think that made me very deceptive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And typically alcoholism, and the people I've met over the years of getting sober, they'll talk about the different moments. And I think a pinnacle moment for me was I was newly married. We were, me and my buddy, actually the buddy I helped get sober later in life, he and I were laying sod in the backyard on a new home. And we worked all day. We laid all the sod and we drank probably 18, 24 beers, whatever. We polished off some beers. And she came home. She was a hairdresser. She came home from work. We had no kids. And I was just a proud, new husband, new homeowner with a yard full of sod. And the first thing she did is goes, "Did you guys drink all those beers?" And that disappointment came over inside. And that like, did I do something wrong? Shame. And that's all it takes for me to go to that other place of, well, then what you don't know won't hurt you. And I start living in the shadows of alcoholism, because I want to drink that way, but I'm not going to let you judge me for drinking that way.
Yeah. So that statement triggered this internal kind of guilt and shame.
I really look back at that as one of the moments, because after that, when I did projects with that guy around the house, we didn't drink the beer in the fridge. We drank the beer we bought, and that she didn't know about. And that, to me, I look back at those moments and I think, wow, that's kind of where that deceptive Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde alcoholism, kind of comes into play.
Okay. And so continue fast forwarding. You're married. You got a wonderful looking backyard. Just laid
beautiful grass.
Guys talk about the serious stuff. Listen, we judge each other off our lawns. But so what happens from there? That's the first defining moment that you remember where you're kind of like, okay, I want to continue to drink this way, but obviously I can't let people know.
Yeah.
So can we kind of dive in there of what started to transpire?
Yeah. So I think there's like a double-edged sword in for me in that sense, because I absolutely love the white picket fence dream. I loved my, talking to my neighbors and doing the, I felt completely like justified in my behavior. Mm-hmm. I went to work, paid paid bills, made money, went on vacations, watched the kids while she was at work, eventually grew into a family atmosphere where we sold that house, bought another house, juggling, have a second child, juggling kids in and out of school. And the whole time, I'm hiding and lying my drinking away from her. The worse it gets, or the more I get called out, or the times we go out and do anything, the more I'm becoming deceptive, right? And this is just kind of bleeding over into general life at this point. At some point, my daughter was about 4.5 or 3.5 when my wife was pregnant with our second. This is the beginning of my AA journey.
Okay.
I end up getting this story really leads me into my first stint of, going to AA recovery. I'm driving. She goes out of town pregnant with she's very pregnant, 7 months pregnant. And I have a 3.5-year-old, and I take my daughter over to my mom's. And I decided to go out with the boys, and I end up crashing her car that night. And this leads to a chain of events where she obviously knows at this point and has been saying to me for a few years, like, you don't drink normal. That's not normal. That's not normal. And for me having to look in the mirror and say, okay, you're right. I got to go do something. So I go through the doors of AA. And the next day I go to AA. And man, they were so good. They had me fixed in about a week, and I walked in and I looked around and I heard some things and I said, yeah, I don't think I'm just quite like you guys. I'm not that bad. And so, but what I have to say today is that I'm grateful for that moment, because it introduced me to the doors. That's an incomprehensible, demoralizing moment in my life, wrecking her car, having my own agency, people involved, right? Having to answer to things. But obviously it was not painful enough. I still found pleasure in drinking, and I still wanted to find a way to drink. So for me, that's now 2009. And I've been introduced to AA. And that starts my AA journey of going in and out of AA for 7 years. Still working as a firefighter, still married, navigating all of the BS that alcoholism brings,
Right.
trying to stay married. And
now, how is that at the at the fire station with all the different guys? How did that kind of work out?
you know what? I don't think that they really knew a lot about the in and out. I didn't really go to work and start recovering out loud until really I got sober. And even then it took a couple years, So my there was a couple guys I could confide in and say, yeah, I'm working on it. But for the most part, I just didn't feel comfortable. And it did change the dynamics of work. Remember, up to this point, so I shared that I start my career and things go pretty well, and I get in as a union political action director. And now at this point, when I'm having these issues and I'm facing, it's that probably threw the first red flag at work, where they're like, what's going on with this guy? And for the next 7 years, I just flew under the radar kind of at work, where I didn't really draw a lot of attention to myself, but I probably wasn't very excelling anywhere either.
Right.
I was just kind of maintaining,
Yeah. So you're maintaining, it's out there.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're kind of it sounds like you're trying to straddle both worlds of, I'm trying to still drink, but at the same time, I want a different life. So we hear this all the time, and how difficult it is to try to live in two worlds at the same time. So what was that like that led to whatever your rock bottom was?
It is that I just refer to it as what I was, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. To the community, I was this perfect firefighter, dad, showing up here, showing up there. But little did they know I had a tumbler full of Mike's Hard Lemonade to do it. And that was that was how I lived for some time in the shadows of alcoholism. And obviously, when you live with somebody, they know. She knew. She knew when I was drinking. She knew when I was drinking. And I would feel that just created a lot of terrible guilt and shame. It was really hard to live that way. It's a very painful way to live.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're not right, and yet doing it anyway, and not really even really enjoying what you're doing all that much anymore, because you can't really find that pleasure in it anymore. But that's the tip of the iceberg for us as alcoholics, right? I eventually get to a place where this isn't pleasurable and I'm doing it. And now I'm questioning, what the hell am I doing, right? And so this is slowly progressing that way. But some of the pain just has to keep coming, right? So divorce eventually gets on the table, right? I don't want to be married to you anymore. Okay, well, I don't want that. So I'll get sober. I'll take it real serious. Now, this is about 5 years into going in and out of AA at this point. So she's heard it. She's already heard all this bullshit, And so I get to a point where I take it real serious. We change our schedule, right? So we do like maybe almost like a geographic for us where, hey, we'll hire a nanny. We'll be together more. That'll keep me busy. I won't, and the whole time I'm forgetting this massive element that I still want to drink. I haven't hit a place where this isn't what I want to do. This is what they want me to do. And I cannot do it for that reason yet, or still at this point. So sure enough, we reconcile. We kind of go through this for another year or so. And, the closet drinking is happening, and she's calling me out, and she found Al-Anon.
Okay.
And Al-Anon gave her I don't know how to say that, a big set of balls, I guess, to a certain degree. But I also say this, I don't know, and I've never accused her of anything. She needed to find some strength, She'd been dealing with a drunk for a long time. Somebody, in my case, it was very sick. I didn't do that to anybody to hurt them, but I absolutely lived a lifestyle that hurt her. And, today I try to make that up with how I live today to the best of my ability, But during that time, living through that with her, I didn't see it that way. I was just, doing what Shane needed to do to function in life at the time.
So she finds Al-Anon, she starts setting some boundaries. And then what did that do for you in your in and out of AA? Did that help accelerate it? What did that look like?
I love that question too, because that question comes up. People are like, oh, if you think you got sober, you guys could have worked it out. And, and man, when you, at that point, I realized that is where I did the most damage is making the promises and not being able to keep them, letting someone down in a relationship where they eventually come to that place where they just don't believe anything that comes out of your mouth. I can't put my faith or my hope into this anymore. And that'll overcome love every single time. I believe that I was absolutely in love and had a loving marriage. And I know that alcoholism destroyed that, and it's okay today. Like we're good. Yeah. Time heals everything. Right. But going through that at the time and looking back at it, I know wholeheartedly that if it wasn't for the deception that alcoholism brought into the marriage, that there might've been, some chance to fix that. But once all that damage was done, I just don't even know that I could have lived that way, right? Hey, I'm sober. Stop hassling me. Like I'm here, right? Because I would have had to walk through that for so long to have that woman trust me again. And rightfully so,
So at what point did you finally say enough is enough and the surrender comes in?
Oh, man, that's an interesting... So I get my DUI. Okay, let's backtrack. She comes to me and says, for any men out there that don't know when a woman is done, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. Just as this, at least for my experience. I knew that when we first talked about divorce, we were talking and navigating, and that she was being threatening and it was going to throw the book at me and it was going to be a painful experience. She comes to me about a year and a half after that reconciliation where I'm still closet drinking. And she says, hey, you told me once that we could get married without it being World War III. I want to hear your plan. And I knew in that comment that she was very serious about moving on with her life. This was not about money. This was not about anything else. This was about peace and serenity and getting away from each other. And so, I guess I was clear-headed enough at the time to sit down and really put everything down on paper, and her and I split. And then that thought came over. All right, she's gone and I can do whatever I want now. I don't have to play by these rules anymore. I don't have to hide and lie to how I want to drink. And so that's going to make things normal again. And it didn't take, but I don't even know that I made it 4 weeks without a DUI from that point. Right. So she walks out the door and Shane gets the freedom to be alcoholic, and I go be alcoholic. And so I get a DUI, and now I'm facing divorce and a DUI, and I've literally served on a silver platter to this woman, the alcoholic that I am, and any kind of case that she probably wants to throw at me at this point. And so I'm having to face consequences at work. I'm thinking, oh crap. So this is the pinnacle moment for me where I'm like, all right, I'm diving into a patient program. I gotta fix this. I gotta change the course of this. And so I do all that and, go navigating through the divorce. And ultimately I get demoted at work and I'm on a bicycle. Okay. Like I get my driver's license taken. I'm an engineer at the fire department at the time when I get a DUI. And so now I have to navigate how am I going to be able to keep my job? Are they going to put me at a desk? Hell, am I going to get fired? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so there had been some precedent that firing wasn't appropriate because of the alcoholism. I did some treatment, didn't do treatment in lieu of, I still took a punishment and ultimately ended up with a demotion from work where I wasn't a driver. Right. So I ended up getting punished. It took a year for that punishment to happen. But because of the DUI, I get temporarily demoted while they're going to figure out what they're going to do with me. I lose my driver's license and I'm really struggling. This is the first few months of I'm really trying everything I can to stay sober. I have a sponsor and I lose my license and I'm getting a little bit of that blackball mentality at work. I'd asked a couple guys, hey, can you pick me up? And they're like, nah, man, I'm busy that day. And kind of making me feel the pain of the consequences of what I put myself in. And I'm really feeling down, and that insidious thought to drink came in again. And, I started drinking. That moment for me, I share this story because I got that thought in my head, and this is early again. I'm maybe 2-3 months sober in this outpatient program, and I'm navigating life. And when that thought came in to drink, I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. And then it just persisted. Mm-hmm. No, man, that's only one drink. And next time I'm on my bicycle and I'm driving down the street and I'm saying, no, I'm not going to do that. And I turn around, I ride up the street and the thoughts, no, it's just one drink. Turn back around. I'm literally half a mile away from the gas station. And I end up riding this bike probably around in circles for 5 miles, right? Trying to talk myself out of drinking, inching my way closer and closer to the gas station. Walking in and out of the gas station, trying to talk myself out of the first drink again, right? Just mental torment of alcoholism. And the whole time, what was I, today I'm like, why didn't I pick up the phone? Why couldn't I have called someone? What made me end up going in there, buying that booze, going to the park, cracking it open and crying one more time, drinking by myself and starting the cycle again. And that cycle went on completely in the dark for, I don't know, let's say 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And I had a friend show up at my house, a girlfriend that I had been dating, who kind of popped out of my life and then was trying to pop back in. The dates that I had gone on her with was totally sober. She had never seen me drink before. She shows up at my house one night and I had been drinking. And I answered the door thinking like, no big deal. Like, hey, what are you doing here? She's like, oh, I was at my grandma's house. Just wanted to stop by. So she comes in. She's looking at me and we're chatting for a minute. And she goes, Shane, I got to ask you something. I don't know if you're going to tell me the truth or not, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Have you been drinking? And I went, if you be alcoholic and you get asked that question, it's like the worst question you could ever be asked, right? Like, no, like that old Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde instantly wants to come out. And for whatever reason, I stopped and paused for a moment, like it felt forever, but it was, and I just said, yeah, I have been, but why did you ask me that? And she said, because you're just different. And she said, I don't know how else to tell you that. You're different. I can just tell. And I went, wow. I said, she goes, why are you drinking? And I said, the next honest thing, I don't know. And she said, can you call your sponsor? And I said, no, I can't right now. And I think maybe you got to go. And she goes, why? And I go, I'm going to be honest, because I have more booze to drink and I'm not going to drink in front of you. And so we talked for a few more moments and she ended up leaving and I did end up drinking more that night. And then the next day I called my sponsor and I said, hey, I've been drinking. And he said, when? I said, well, yesterday. And he goes, we did step work yesterday. And I said, yeah, bro, I know. I've been doing step work with you and drinking. And he said, well, you've been lying to me? And I said, yeah, dude, I've been lying to you. I'm coming clean. Like, I don't know what else to say. I've been drinking. I don't know why. And he said, shit, man, I don't know why I'm giving you such a hard time. I did the same thing. And then we both laughed and he goes, dude, are you ready? And I said, yeah, I don't know what this feeling is, but something is different, right? I could just tell right then and there by telling the truth that day that something was different. And I truly believe, for me, that moment of a cycle of lying and repeating the same bullshit over and over again, and literally that saying the truth set me free that day. It did. It did. Looking at that girl, even though that girl's not in my life, being honest with her in that moment for the first time, saying, yeah, I have been drinking, but why are you asking me that? And having that moment come over me where, because she can tell that I'm different. And I, like all these little factors that have just came together at the right moment for me. It's finally God worked for me what I couldn't do for myself,
Yeah. So you finally told the truth and you outed yourself. And then what did that end up leading to for you?
Yeah, man. So we get to work, and I got gung ho about getting the steps done, because I'd never done them. I'd loitered in AA with the intent to recover for 7 years, and now here I am, really doing recovery, and we're going after it, and it's awesome, and I'm hitting the gym, and basically end up really kind of going about a step a month,
Mm-hmm.
and so over that first year of sobriety, I'm still dealing with some consequences at work, and ultimately now it's right at the end where I'm about a year sober, and I get hit with a full investigation at work from everything that had happened. They basically want to kind of hold me accountable, and I kind of knew it was coming, but I didn't think that this would transpire into what it does. So they'd send me home and saying, hey, you're pending an investigation of possible demotion. We're going to send you home until we've had this figured out. So I get put on paid administrative leave. Now this is this is 9 years ago in December, and right before, so it was about a year before we opened the gym. And so I get sent home, and I think this is going to take a couple weeks, I don't know, you know what I mean? And next thing you know, Christmas goes by. This is December, January goes by, February goes by. I'm talking to the union. Hey, what's going on? Like, oh, bunch of staff got replaced up here, paperwork. It's just bureaucracy. Don't worry about it. Okay. My business partner, who is at this time, my sponsor in AA, is a corrections officer. He and I come together because of the public safety ties a little bit. He starts sponsoring me. I'm with this group of guys. We're now I'm pretty much into the step work. They come to me and say, hey, we're sending you home pending this demotion. And I got hit with that like a ton of bricks that night, and it kind of like really sunk in, like, shit, I'm still facing the consequences. That particular night happened to be a Tuesday night, and it was my men's meeting night. So I left work. I drove straight to the men's meeting, shared with it about the guys, and I realized, that life was changing. Like AA was my circle. This was my first thought was, I didn't call the union. I didn't call anybody to cry about what's going on with me. I went to the guys in AA and I told them what was really going on. And then I drove my ass home and I got to work. And we realized about 2 months into this, where I was getting like, why are they jerking me around? This business opportunity from Self-Made Training Facility had already presented in my lap. My sponsor works out at Self-Made in Corona with a personal trainer. That's Miguel Aguilar is now franchising this business. And so he asked me to go to a business meeting with him. He's like, hey man, you're way better with numbers. Come hear these numbers and just tell me if you think this is a good idea. I might want to open a gym. And so I'm like, all right, so we'll go with him, and we get this spiel. Now, anybody who, I'm going to say this, anyone who doesn't know, Miguel Aguilar passed away this year from a gunshot injury. God rest his soul. He was a good friend and a good business mentor, and I was blessed to be brought into the self-made world through him. And the self-made legacy is going to live on forever. And Miguel has created something that is amazing in the fitness world. Very proud to be a part of it today. But that man can sell ice to an Eskimo. I mean, I sat down the first time and like literally I walked out of that meeting and I'm like, I don't know, that guy's like the best salesman I've ever talked to in my life, right? Oh, it's gonna be like this and it's gonna be like that, and I'm just a dumb fireman, and he's a cop, at this point, opening a few sober livings, and we're getting our feet wet in business, but I'm glad we did it. And it's been an experience. So we decided to franchise and open a gym. And I don't know shit about being a gym owner or anything about franchising, but we dove in, and I dove in during that time when I was on paid administrative leave. And I took that time and that new recovery focus to build something that I know that I never would have done had I been drinking, had I been, comfortable. Even if I wasn't alcoholic, if I was just comfortable living my lifestyle as a firefighter and drinking, I just would have, I would have never had the motivation, I guess, and drive, and quite frankly, the networking. Because like I said, that opportunity came to me. Why? Because of my sponsor. He grabbed me and said, "Hey, come to me with this business meeting and listen. Tell me if these numbers even work." And that's it. It inspired me to say, let's go into business together. So we opened Self-Made Training Facility, Orange County, and we've been in business almost over 8 years now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many tools or lessons have you been able to pull from recovery that you're able to apply to business?
Oh, I think recovery is a way. I wish normies could just go through the 12 steps, maybe once a month, just kind of read them and say, oh yeah, these are good principles to live by, But yeah, I think in general, the discipline. So, motivation, I always go back to what motivated me to get sober. I have to just flat out say pain, right? At some point, pain was the absolute motivator to change for me. I had to be in enough pain to really want the sobriety change. Once I got a taste of sobriety, right, the motivation would ceases to exist. The only thing then that pain motivation ceases to exist. Now I'm motivated by the results I'm getting. I'm motivated by the feelings I get by being of service to others, by all these other wonderful things that are coming by showing up and being involved. And what I believe happened with me specifically is it built a lifestyle where I just started to really enjoy it, and the discipline, right? Not only the recovery of showing up and being involved and doing some fun things and having some laughs and enjoying, topics that used to just cripple us to talk about. And now we can just sit there and laugh about not that I'm not that person, because I am. I can be that person tomorrow if I pick up a drink. But how crazy it is to go from having thoughts that that's okay to looking at myself and laughing like, man, I don't ever want to be that person again, Recovery is a very interesting aspect. And then the mindset and discipline I think that recovery brought to me, I was successful as a firefighter. And I used to always, I look back at why. Most of that stuff is a blueprint to success, right? There's standard operating procedures, there's guidelines, there's memos, and all these different rules that you read and you follow, right? There's training, there's manipulative training, there's all these things that you do to get good at skills. And so you become an entrepreneur and you work with people. And I think ultimately you just have to have a different type of discipline and mindset in that world. I show up to work, it was easy, right? Hey, you're going to do this training, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And so being an entrepreneur and kind of bled into those steps, right? I want this recovery and I want this recovery to work. How am I going to apply this? What am I going to do daily to apply recovery? It's really cool how they all end up blending together, because for me, I never was a captain. I wasn't the leader on the floor, but I took a lot of leadership positions. And then I'm not that type of person that goes and drops the hammer on people. So owning a business, like a lot of times I've been very lackadaisy, but I have to remember, like, if I want to hold someone accountable, I have to be accountable. I have to suit up and show up. I have to do exactly what I say I'm going to do. And no doubt that AA has taught me how to be very disciplined with that. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me as a business owner is I want to be held accountable, to the people I work with and be a good example to them,
That's awesome. With the correlation of recovery and fitness, how much do you think they kind of intertwine?
I think if anyone's gone to any kind of therapy or any kind of outpatient programs, or anything to do with anxiety, depression, or right, what do they always preach? Get out there and move your body, get some physical fitness, right? Stimulate that cortisone and all those other good things in your body. And so I think they just go completely hand in hand. I know for me, as a firefighter, I always kind of stayed in shape and worked out, but I never focused on the diet aspect or what I was doing off duty, right? It was like, oh, we're going to go train. We're going to be good at our job. I'm going to be strong enough to do my job. But it wasn't, about a lifestyle outside of work. And I've built a lifestyle with recovery that I don't know what it would, I can't imagine not doing fitness, right? Like for me anyway, fitness is such a massive tool in my recovery. And I look back as to even building the gym as to what that meant to me, right? To keep me busy, to keep me focused, to give me new purpose, to be responsible, to do something, and now be responsible for, 40 personal trainers that operate their business. It kind of gives you this different purpose, the whole thing does. So I love how my recovery personally, I don't think it would be the same. If I wasn't able to work out today, it would change a lot of my recovery purpose, because that's a huge portion of what I've built out of my recovery, is bringing people into the fitness world and managing people that way.
So one of the things you brought up earlier was this change of identity, of going from a firefighter and the director to basically changing lanes, getting into this gym. How are you able to navigate a complete change of identity from a professional standpoint, but also the personal standpoint, like you talked about Jekyll and Hyde?
Yeah. Well, managing, I'm super blessed for my business partner. I think that ultimately when I was working, because I worked as a firefighter up until last year. I officially left the fire service August of last year, August 24th. So when we opened the gym, we took on two roles. He was actually my business partner, managed the gym and handled everything, and I was just the financial officer. So as a financial officer, I could do the majority of my duties, owning and operating the gym, remotely. And so we handled that and juggled it. But I was a newly divorced dad. It was a lot. The fire service definitely built, tools and systems into how I lived, and checks and balances, and how I did my job. And I started to apply some of that into, operating the business. Just, hey, holding myself accountable to, on these dates, this is what we do, and this is how you do it. Now, juggling recovery, what I learned early on is that I don't get to do any of this if I don't stay sober. So, every single day getting to a meeting was a priority, and especially early in recovery. So it was like, here we are opening a gym. Here I am juggling being a divorced dad, on my days off, and yet still having I gotta get to a recovery meeting, right? And I just did it. It's one of the things today when as a coach, right, as a lifestyle, as a fitness coach, as a mindset coach for people, when I hear them say I don't have time or I don't have money, I say no, you do. You have both. They're just, whatever we're talking about isn't the priority right now, right? When that becomes the priority, you'll spend your time and money on it. When I knew that AA had to be my priority, I made time for AA, right? I made time for my recovery. And I still do today, because if I don't stay plugged into that, I don't get to do any of this. I won't be sitting here with you. I won't be sharing this story to try to help someone, have the light bulb go off and find recovery.
Yeah. So who is Shane now?
Oh, Shane today, it's probably lead a little bit back in the last question you asked, transitioning truly from the fire service and into the gym world, because and really becoming more of a mentor in fitness and recovery. That is the transition that I'm currently making. I spent 25 years in the fire service, and I worked a lot of overtime, and that's how I paid my bills and took care of my ex-wife and handled all that shit. And you know, it's an interesting thing to kind of go from doing that and being completely driven on a daily basis by helping and being of service to others. And I haven't felt this freaking good, and I don't know how long. I went to this PTSD therapy last year before I officially retired from the fire service. And I like to share, it's actually an amazing aspect because I thought stopping drinking would fix everything. And slowly but surely on my recovery journey through the fire service, through not being, through a lot of changes, being a firefighter, being the golden boy, being all these things for the union, having that, giving that away because of alcoholism, right? Changing directions, kind of probably having some of my membership lose their faith in me. I didn't get reelected. They wanted somebody else for that job. Guess what? That opened the doors for me to have nothing. I'm trying to hold on to something that wasn't serving me anyway. So next thing you know, the door opens. I open the gym. Now this serves me. I'm of service. I'm out there doing this. I have time. I'm going to AA meetings. I'm sponsoring. One of my favorite times during that whole time, I used to build a roster of sponsors. And I remember of sponsees, and I had like 18 sponsees at one time, and I'm juggling them all and doing all this other stuff. And I was so happy being of service to people. And I realized, I looked back at that while I was at PTSD therapy last year, and I'm like, when have I been the most happiest in my sobriety? When I'm actually getting to do sobriety, when I get to be of service to others, And so I came to this point where after PTSD therapy, do I want to continue to chase overtime money because, it's what I've done and it's where we've been, or do I like the way I feel and do I want to ride this and just go in there and focus on the gym, focus on fitness mentorship, and focus on Fit Life Recovery, where we can bring some people in that need that mindset and discipline coaching to change their life, Getting sober is free. Anyone wants to get sober out there, hit me up. I will give you all the free resources in the world to get sober, right? AA does not have the authority on sobriety, but I love AA and that's how I do it. But there are other ways to do it. But I love that fellowship and it saved my life for sure.
That's awesome. So once you went 100% into the gym over this last year, what have you seen as the fruit or the results?
Well, it opened the door for me to truly, I guess, figure out this side of it. I didn't know that I wanted to start a coaching business. I didn't know that this would lead me into trying to be of service to people this way. I do know that by being at the gym and getting to truly dive into business, it's opened those doors for me. So owning a brick and mortar gym and not being there all the time, and then all of a sudden getting to go there, mingle with the personal trainers, mentor and help, get involved in the systems, get involved in the advertisement, get involved with bringing awareness. Next thing you know, I'm realizing, because of my recovery story, that I'm getting hit up a lot about, how to help with that, and that's my passion. The gym, I always go back. The fitness is part of the tools of my recovery. This is my lifestyle is about recovery today. Man, I am so blessed of my home life right now, but I've been in situations where I've picked toxic relationships and, had that dragging me down in recovery too. So, where I'm at today, I love where I'm going with this. I don't know where this is going. I don't even know what this network looks like. I know I'm coaching people and I'm helping them along the way. I don't know what it can grow into, and I'm excited for that.
Sounds like it's a very exciting future for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, recovery opens doors. That's all I can say. If you haven't experienced it, you should try it, right? I mean, for those people out there who are struggling, I would say you have nothing to lose by diving in and giving it a shot, right? Mm-hmm. You just might find you like what you get.
Nothing to lose, but everything to gain.
Everything to gain, man. I don't lose anything by drinking. I give it away. Mm-hmm. Flat out, every time. So.
Well, thank you for coming down and sharing your story, man. This has been really awesome. I love getting to meet new people, and the theme that I love that we weren't even aware of. The happiest people are the ones that are doing the most work and just wanting to help other people discover how to live a better life.
Absolutely. And I keep remembering that as a coach, right? Because, you get in conversations about money, and it's like, well, look, everything costs money. You got to, I've invested thousands of dollars into myself with coaching and mentorship and therapy, right? I mean, think about how much we invest in ourselves. And I'm glad I have. My perception is my strongest tool that I have today, right? If you think about, if you're able to just perceive things in a way that is comfortable for you, then you're winning every single time. I get it. Life's uncomfortable. Shit happens. But what we do with that and how we perceive it, is can be a superpower if you've got it,
That's where life is lived.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me here, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and share my recovery story.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it.